You know that feeling when you finish explaining something and the other person just stares at you with a blank look on their face? Or worse, they completely misinterpret what you said and suddenly the whole conversation goes sideways? That quiet frustration sitting in your chest right now, that is exactly what we are going to fix today. Because here is the truth. Being misunderstood is not just annoying. It costs you. It costs you relationships. It costs you opportunities. It costs you confidence. And most people are walking around every single day losing all three, without even realizing why. But before we go any further, if you've been struggling with this for a while and you genuinely want a faster path to transforming how people receive your words, we have some related programs linked down in the video description. People who have gone through those resources have completely changed the way they communicate, and the results have been extraordinary. Go check them out if you feel like this is something bigger than a YouTube video can fully solve for you. Now let us get into this. Picture this. You spend 10 minutes carefully explaining your idea at work. You feel good about it, you think you nailed it, and then someone responds to a completely different point than the one you made. Suddenly you are defending yourself. Suddenly you feel invisible. And that slow burn of being misunderstood starts to feel like it is about you as a person, not just about the words you chose. That is the real pain nobody talks about. It is not just miscommunication, it is the identity wound. When someone misunderstands you repeatedly, you start to believe that you are just not good at expressing yourself. You start shrinking. You start over-explaining. You start apologizing before you even finish your sentences. And none of that works. It actually makes it worse. Here is something that might surprise you. Research in communication psychology consistently shows that the problem is almost never intelligence. It is almost never vocabulary. It is almost never even the content of what you are saying. The problem is structure. People do not struggle to understand your words. They struggle to follow your thinking. And once you fix the structure of how you communicate, everything changes. Fast. We are talking within days of applying these techniques. People who used to glaze over when you spoke start leaning in. People who used to cut you off start letting you finish. That is not an exaggeration. That is what happens when you align the way you speak with how the human brain actually processes information. So let us get into the first technique, and pay close attention here because this one alone can shift things almost immediately. Lead with the destination, not the journey. Most people start explaining things from the beginning, the backstory, the context, the setup, and by the time they get to the actual point, the other person has already mentally checked out. The brain craves resolution. It needs to know where it is going before it can relax into listening. So next time you are about to explain something, flip it. Start with the conclusion. Start with what you want the person to understand or decide. Then fill in the details. Watch how differently people engage with you when they already know where you are heading. Now here is where it gets really interesting, and this is the part most communication advice completely skips over. Being understood is not just about logic, it is about emotional safety. When someone feels emotionally unsafe in a conversation, their brain literally shuts down the part that processes new information. This is basic neuroscience. If the person you are speaking to feels judged, pressured, or confused, they stop listening to your words and start defending themselves. So the fastest way to be understood is to make the other person feel understood first. This sounds simple, but watch how rarely people actually do it. Before you explain your idea, your perspective, your request, briefly reflect back what you believe the other person cares about. Show them you see their world before you invite them into yours. This technique alone has a documented effect on agreement rates in high-stakes conversations. Studies in conflict resolution show that mutual understanding attempts increase cooperative outcomes by a significant margin. That is real. That is measurable. But let us talk about what it actually feels like when you master this. You are in a disagreement with someone close to you. Instead of that familiar escalation, instead of that wall going up between you, there is this moment where they visibly relax. You can see it in their shoulders, in their eyes. The defensiveness drops. And suddenly you are having a real conversation. That feeling is worth everything. Here is the next technique. Use contrast to create clarity. The human brain understands things in comparison, not in isolation. When you say something is important, the brain asks important compared to what? When you say something is fast, the brain asks fast compared to what? The moment you start painting before and after pictures in your communication, the moment you start using contrast deliberately, you give people a mental anchor to hang your meaning on. Instead of saying this approach will save time, say this approach takes 2 hours, instead of the usual 8. Instead of saying this idea has potential, say right now we are getting this result. But with this change we could realistically see that result. Suddenly your words stop floating in the air, they land, they stick. People repeat them back to you accurately because you gave their brain something concrete to hold. Now let us talk about something that most people are afraid to address. Tone. Not your tone of voice alone, but the emotional tone underneath your words. People are incredibly sensitive to what is not being said. They pick up on your energy, your frustration, your impatience, your anxiety. And when those things are present, they color everything you say. You can have the most perfectly structured sentence in the world, and if it is delivered with a subtle edge of annoyance or desperation, the listener will react to the edge, not the words. This is where self-awareness becomes a communication superpower. Not because you need to perform calmness, but because when you are genuinely grounded in yourself, when you actually believe in what you are saying and you are not afraid of the other person's reaction, your communication becomes magnetic. People trust it. They lean toward it. They want more of it. Here is the next pattern interrupt, and this one is powerful. Stop trying to be perfectly clear. Try to be perfectly curious instead. When you shift from trying to convince someone to genuinely exploring something with them, the entire dynamic changes. Curiosity signals that you are not threatened by their perspective, and that signal opens doors in their mind that logic alone cannot unlock. Ask questions that show you are thinking alongside them. Watch how quickly misunderstandings dissolve when people feel like collaborators instead of audiences. The people who communicate most effectively in the world are not the ones with the biggest vocabulary or the most convincing arguments. They are the ones who have mastered the art of making people feel genuinely seen and understood in the process. That is the ultimate currency of human connection, and it is learnable, every single part of it. Here's what all of this means for your actual daily life. Less repeating yourself, less being interrupted, less walking away from conversations feeling drained or invisible, more people genuinely getting what you mean. More people responding to your real message. More confidence walking into difficult conversations because you know you have the tools to navigate them. The difference between someone who constantly struggles to be understood and someone who communicates with clarity, confidence, and connection is not talent. It is technique. It is practice. It is the right framework applied consistently until it becomes second nature. If you've been nodding along to this video, if you have recognized yourself in any of these moments, then you already know that what you just learned is only the beginning. The real transformation happens through deeper application, real scenarios, and guided practice that a single video cannot give you. The related programs in the video description below go far deeper into everything we cover today. The people who have gone through them have reported profound shifts not just in how they communicate, but in how they feel about themselves. Most people will keep watching videos and hope something sticks. The rare few will actually do something with what they know. Do not be the person who waits until the frustration gets worse. Go check out what is in the description right now while this is still fresh, while the motivation you feel in this moment is still alive. That feeling you have right now, that readiness, act on it.